change in language, as well as Gabbard really deferring to the president, saying he is the one that decides what is or is not an imminent threat. Connell.
Yeah, solid reporting on all of that. Kelly gives us a lot to talk about with Paul Rieckhoff, who's here in studio in New York, host of the Independent Americans podcast. Good to see you, my friend, again. I think, Kelly talked about two things that I want to spend time talking to you about, but let's start with Tulsi Gabbard on this whole idea of imminent threat and whose responsibility it is to assess an imminent threat. Your thoughts on what you just heard today?
Not a good performance by Gabbard. I think it sounded to like most people like she's talking out both sides of her mouth. She's dancing around the issues, and I don't think it's a good performance. And I think, frankly, Trump is watching, and he's watching her, he's watching Hegseth, he watched Kristi Noem, he's watching some people that I think are underqualified, potentially disqualified, really struggling under the most intense spotlight of a war that is dropping in popularity by the minute.
But is it the read that, her top deputy resigns and says there was no imminent threat, that maybe she feels that way and just feels like she can't say it? Is that the read?
Yeah, it feels like she's not telling the truth. And we know that she's been against regime change wars for decades. I've known Tulsi Gabbard for decades. We worked closely together on veterans issues. Right. She always ran and stood on no regime change wars. She's pulled a complete 180. So people are wondering how she really feels. She's hiding, I think, her emotions. She's maybe hiding how she truly feels. And I don't think she's also defending Trump viscerously enough. I mean, he may not like what he's hearing here. And I think all these folks are on pretty thin ice as the MAGA base continues to splinter. And Joe Kent is going on Tucker Carlson today.
I saw that.
So this front is going to open up, and they're going to be under more pressure, especially now as gas prices continue to go up and people back home feel it more and more.
Well, the idea of imminent threat, I mean, I had John Bolton on at this time yesterday, who sees the world completely different than Tulsi Gabbard. In fact, he thinks she should quit or resign or be fired or something like that, because he can make the argument, you may agree or disagree, that whether there was an imminent threat, the war is still justified. He makes that argument, so he disagrees with her on that. Now, speaking of the war, a couple of things. First of all, this new weapon introduced today, GBU-72's big bunker buster bomb. Okay, so the U.S. is trying to do something in the Strait of Hormuz. You see, they cost like $300 grand each, but the idea is to hit these missile sites along the strait. And then on what Robert was talking about in this gas field, if we go to the telestrator, South Pars, this gas field that is shared, here you see it in here between Qatar and Iran, that gets hit. Kelly's reporting that just came in that the United States and Israel may not have been on the same page. In other words, Israel hits it, the United States may not have approved or known about that as much as some first thought. Your thoughts?
It doesn't surprise me. It also could be part of it, the administration distancing themselves from things that will inevitably drive up gas prices. They're feeling that back home. You saw J.D. Vance try to address it before. There's also a Marine Corps unit on their way to that region. They've talked about trying to figure out how to secure. They have to secure the Strait of Hormuz, or gas prices are going to keep going up. And that is the focal point here, and they clearly have underestimated the disruption here. There's an old saying, when you upset a hornet's nest, the hornets decide when it's over. That's what's happening now. This is overflowing into the region. It's overflowing into other countries, and the lid is blown off. And we have, I think, in many ways already started to lose control around many things, but most of all, the flow through the Strait of Hormuz and gas prices.
Right, because like through traditional military metrics, I don't think there's any argument that the United States military and their performance has been exemplary, right? Like they've been hitting target after target. And Israel, you could argue whether the targets are hit or the right target, but each country's hitting like 7,000 plus targets. I mean, just decimating, and to use the president's term, Iran. But that can be true, and so can be these issues with how you're going to get the strait open. What's going to happen domestically, how long you can keep this going for. Like, it's all true at once to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's all kind of going sideways, right? And the military is doing a tremendous job of eliminating targets, thousands every day, but the overflow continues. Missiles are still spewing out. Drones have started to fly out. Subordinate countries in the area are being hit, and that is going to continue, because after we wipe it out, that's kind of the easy part. The question is, what comes next? Who is in power? Who is in control? Who secures a population of 90 million people?
I'll give you one argument
in Iraq,
for it,
that's going to be a really hard challenge.
True. I'll give you one argument for it. Go back. We have these leaders eliminated on the telestrator now. You can pop those up. One after one, Israel eliminates, assassinates leader after leader, right? So the argument, we're going to talk about this more in our next segment, I believe, but the argument is like, all right, leaderless regime at some point, so this internal uprising of the Iranian people now becomes more likely to take place and maybe more likely to succeed, that strategy by Israel might lead to actual regime change. It might work, might it?
Maybe. Right, and I think this kind of is reminding me of like post 9/11 when they killed a new Al Qaeda leader every week. Right, we feel like there's another regime.
That's right. You never wanted to be the number two guy at Al Qaeda.
Right, exactly. And you have to figure out how to dismantle the entire regime, but also decide who's going to handle security. This is a question I don't think the president has answered. Gabbard has answered. Is it going to be? The regime? Is it going to be?
I mean, inside Iran.
Inside Iran. Who's going to be the boots on the ground? Who's going to handle security in the streets and keep people safe?
You think it's going to be Americans?
We don't know. That's on the table, right? And that's why the president has to answer. Is it going to be some kind of new free Iranian army? Is it going to be a NATO force? Is it going to be Israelis? Is it going to be Marines? He's left it all on the table. And I think right now he has to communicate what happens when the bombs do stop. Who's going to secure the population and ensure that that doesn't overflow into the entire region like we saw with Iraq and we saw with Al Qaeda.
All right, Paul. As always, thank you. We'll see you again next week. Paul Rieckhoff here at 1:15. We continue. In fact, here's a look at what we have coming up today on NewsNation Live.
Much more on the war and Israel taking out Iranian leaders one by one, trying to set the stage for an uprising. Will it work? An IDF combat